Some of you know, of course, that Mary-Louise wrote this astonishing book. And kind of the whole idea for this visit was born out of one letter that was written in the book. And it's been my dream, and it's now going to be your reality, that Mary-Louise will read that letter to the man to whom she wrote the letter. I give you Mary-Louise Parker and Bob Franciscone. Go have it, baby. Woo! Woo!
Okay.
Good.
It's very long. Are you sure? Okay. Dear movement teacher, any normal person can juggle. You made it clear that, sure, certain people could not, but they were abnormally uncoordinated and would never be actors. I was on the fast track to failure, being one of 2 people in the entire class who could not juggle. I could barely toss. At breakfast, the freshmen could be seen juggling biscuits. At lunch, the lawn was littered with us juggling packs of Marlboro Lights while also smoking them. And at night, some would exit the showers juggling sticks of deodorant. The hot shots would show off, but most were hoping just to pass the mandatory juggling exam held each week. I was privy to a lot of gruesome meltdowns on the hill that you didn't know about, since teachers rarely wandered there. First-year drama students would buckle from the pressure. They'd throw their beanbags into the grass, swearing through clenched teeth. Everyone except me and one other girl, though, could keep them in the air for at least a few seconds. My friend P was a proficient juggler, part of the group who could have been plucked off campus and shuttled away to Big Apple Circus. He would join the contingent on the lawn that could juggle while doing somersaults. He could have easily juggled while rebuilding the engine for someone's car. He was, in fact, in all the promo materials for the school, a photo of him looking gorgeous and juggling while on a unicycle. My friend M was a competent juggler. M didn't go to sleep chasing dreams of you lobbing swords at him until his head flew off. He only went to bed fearing I might have sex with his roommate while he had to pretend to be asleep. Sorry about that, M. I mean, guilty. M meditated a lot because his Aunt O had sent him to a transcendental meditation teacher. I thought that was weird. He'd sit there on the freezing dorm room floor, eyes closed and drooling a little for 20 minutes twice a day. Years later, I learned meditation and it changed me profoundly. I now sit there every day with eyes closed, but I hardly ever drool. I'm sorry that, okay, I also had some amount of sex with M's roommate while he was meditating 10 feet away. It was his special time, and that was creepy of me. You, as our teacher, must have realized that we did things most college freshmen are not expected to do. During voice class, we jogged across campus in our blacks, the spandex uniform we wore as first-year drama students, And as we jogged, we held a piece of cork between our teeth to relax our jaw muscles. Elle, our voice teacher, sent us out the door, clapping her hands to establish a rhythm and urging us to flick those fetlocks, flick, flick, flick them. We trotted into other buildings where ballet dancers and opera singers would barely notice us jogging by while chanting, spa la la ya 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 ga ga ga. With the corks, it came out more fa wa wa ya ya ga 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 ha ha ha. For the frontier exercise in acting class, we sat with eyes closed, rocking side to side, and waiting for the urge to roll or jump into the space and enter our frontier. Landing in a difficult personal memory, we describe our feelings as the teacher walked us through the re-experiencing of it. Frontier involved weeping and shouting unintelligibly, whereas in speech class we articulated plosives and mastered liquid U's so that the word duty became more duty than duty. In text class, we sat on the floor in leg warmers taking copious notes while our chain-smoking professor broke down the import of the stress in our town being on town and not our. My other classes were not the same kind of struggle as yours. I did well in Marty's class with Frontier and the no rose without a thorn exercise. In dance class, I was not bad at the routine set to Eye of the Tiger. We were stuffing in everything we could and generally having the time of our lives, yet the elderly, the infirm, could juggle better than me. I sensed you suspecting that my special needs juggling was emblematic of my inability to be neutral. The drama faculty wanted us to find artistic neutrality. If we didn't find it, we could be drop-kicked all the way home. And my failure to find a neutral suit made you throw up your hands. I tried, but I couldn't even fake it. It's a speed I don't offer on my gear shift. I was not issued the particular toolkit of middle. Gymnastics was also an issue. For those who couldn't swing a handspring by themselves, another student was poised at the spring-off point to spot us. When it was my turn, the spotter would assume the posture, knowing deep down there would be nothing to spot. My handspring was basically me scurrying down the mat and reaching out with the beginnings of a cartwheel, then squatting and contracting into a ball as though I'd been hit with severe abdominal cramps. Then I'd pop up, arms raised, with an impish expression on my face. I thought impish would suggest the spirit of those Russian girls in the Olympics with micro ponytails who never menstruate, but it only made me look spastic. Gymnastics was a bust, but my low point was the day you were teaching the forward undulation walk. First, you had us lie on the ground to relax our back muscles. I intentionally did not lie next to M because I knew he'd try to make me laugh or he'd have a distracting erection. So I went over by V and C. My class had a real camaraderie. Even our wild parties or mini orgies. Orgy was so mild. I think a teacher walked in on it and we actually sent a representative to apologize on behalf of the class. Oh no, wait, the teacher was driving the car. Van. It was in the back of a minivan. There was another incident at J and C's house, but never mind. Anyway, it all had a ring of Swiss Family Robinson and there was no sabotaging. As a result, I didn't feel completely isolated when you marched over and snapped at me, "This isn't nap time, wake up." I wasn't tired or even spacing out. I was trying to let go of the blockage in my lower back, I triple swear. But the thing you could not have been expected to understand was that I have, my entire life, given people the wrong signals with my face, which was actually working overtime to find an expression that was neutral and someone who understood how to work in opposition. But I was not the sum of those faces. I was still the face that sometimes infuriated others against my will. I know you thought my lizard was inappropriate during the animal exercise. I really don't recall trying to make my lizard overtly sexual, per se. Regardless, in that moment, I said nothing and stood up with the rest of the class. I was across from S, and we began undulating, but you were not happy. walked through the maze of black danskins, waving your arms and telling us to just, please, stop. You stood in front of us, but facing the mirror. You shook your head, giving a kabuki version of a shrug, and then you said, "Don't you people understand about working in opposition?" We did not. I wonder if you still teach that, where you catch an impulse and throw it to someone after undulating through your center. Forgive me, but I feel like an impulse is not something you can catch. You can catch a ride to Mr. Waffle, you can catch herpes, but an impulse is supposed to spring from you and is mechanically antecedent to a reflex because it can be squelched, whereas a reflex is automatic, isn't it? When impulses need curtailing, you have to learn impulse control. So can you really see one coming from an outside source in sweatpants and like catch it? Wouldn't that be like catching someone's repression? Sorry, did you consider calling it catching a vibe or even seize that wave? I'm not certain it was useful. Maybe that's why we did it, though, to dive in and not ask why. Maybe that was the point. I can say in retrospect that actually to do a move so unsexy in front of your peers with or without a cork lodged in your jaw has to be useful. I'm wondering if I misunderstood the whole thing. It's possible that I exhibited some kind of rejection of it that showed on my face despite my protestations of being the most eager student ever. Wow. Okay, so maybe I was not entirely honest about myself. For what it's worth, I think I may get the value of it, however circuitous my arrival at this understanding may be. Yes, so it's safe to say I am late in getting it. On that day, though, after admonishing the entire class, you turned away from the mirror to face me and said, only to my face, while pointing also at my face, "Why can't you get this? Why can't you get anything?" Cut to me pulling the midterm evaluation letter from my mailbox that had Arts Probation stamped across it. The letter basically stated that I needed to fix myself or I would be gone. I was ashamed and embarrassed. I hated that I would have to tell my father, even though I knew he would take my side. I read the evaluation from you that explained why you had suggested that probation. You said that she asks inappropriate questions that disrupt class. She appears spaced out and bored. The lack of physical energy is alarming. Her use of sexuality is offensive. I was so mad. I felt like I was trying to be what you wanted and you were stuck in your categorical rejection of everything I am. I sulked, but not so much that I would be caught carrying what you thought of me. I went back to the dorm and sat holding the letter, reading and rereading the notice of my potential expulsion. My friend M came in and asked what was up, and I told him that you hated me. I said you were a turd and that you'd written on the evaluation and it was bogus. I showed him the letter, and while still holding it and looking down at it without expression, he asked me, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Do? What do you mean, do? I've done everything I can. What he wrote isn't even an evaluation." And M said, "Yes, it is. That's what he thinks of you. And he's the teacher, so what are you going to do about it?" I said, "But I feel I was trying so hard already." And he said, "It doesn't matter what you felt. What are you going to do?" The last was a statement and not a question that slapped me so hard I couldn't look in his face. I sat staring at my feet. "Whose side are you on?" I asked, and he said, "Yours, but you have to understand that he is the teacher. This is his evaluation of you. It's up to you to change his opinion." The shift where I went from resenting him to my awakening that, wow, this person is so correct, was swift. I realized, yes, this is a naked reality about myself that I have to address, even if part of me is still cranky. It was a relief to see that maybe someone's dislike of me wasn't intractable, and to own up to the fact that a person who dislikes me isn't automatically to be dismissed, because sometimes I am deeply unlikable. Our very next class together, I went in with a different set of priorities and not wearing a backless unitard. I was actively defenseless as a choice. When my father was at officer candidate school, he was taken before the officers for a review. It was standard. The soldiers listened while every fellow before them was taken down for an infraction they'd committed, and each man would respond. My dad started to notice a sameness in tone with each testimony. Commanding officer would say, "You did blah, blah, blah. Would you like to offer your explanation?" And private whoever would say, "Yes, sir, I realize what I did, but this is why," and so on. After the 11th or 12th exchange, my dad said he realized that regardless of the excuse, they all came across as defensive, and it weakened them. He felt inspired suddenly as he stepped before the lieutenant colonel, who asked him if he'd like to offer an explanation for his misdeed. My dad said, "No, sir, I would not." The already orderly room went silent. The lieutenant colonel looked up at my father and said, "What do you mean by that, Private?" My dad said, "I offer no excuses, sir. I take responsibility, and it won't happen again." A few weeks into my new approach, I asked you a question after class. Truthfully, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to connect. Anyway, your head tilted as you leaned in to listen. An adjustment of your eyebrows felt the teeniest bit artificial. You were arranging your face to come across as open and interested. I looked down, embarrassed that we were actually communicating. It felt sparked. I was meeting you, finally. Me. "Sorry, could I ask a quick question?" "I don't really have a question, but hi." "You." "Sure, how can I help?" "This is my interested face. I'm having trouble with the eyebrows." Me. "So when we freeze up in the space after you clap your hands, are we supposed to be aware of anyone else?" "Honestly, I'm so grateful that you just said, 'How can I help?' that I may cry." You. "It's more about the freeze than what follows. Take a scan of yourself to see exactly where you are, which is right, sorry, shit, sorry. For what? I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, please don't re-hate me." You. "Well, you're posing a good question. Actually, I see that you are trying, and I appreciate the effort." Me. "Oh, good. Your eyebrows are doing that welcoming thing again. Would it be awful if I hugged you?" You. "But it speaks to a future exercise. For now, stay focused on your own instrument." "I'm glad we're connecting, but I have another class now. Why are you hugging yourself?" Me. "Great, I get it now. Your eyes are really sparkly, but like Santa, I'm not being inappropriate." You. "Good work today. Good work today." Me. "Thank you so much. I love you so much. Not to be gross, just thanks." After that day, your face softened. At the end of the semester, I was doing an improvisation with H, and you lit up, burst out laughing. I'd accomplished something bigger than comedy, and it proved that I needed to change. The person who deserves the credit for that laugh is the person who deserves the credit for that laugh is unequivocally you. Letting someone you don't really like surprise you is evolved, and that would have been impossible if you didn't have the humility I wasn't giving you credit for. I was so caught up in your being wrong about me that I hadn't honestly taken you in. It's so transparent how willing we are to dismiss the intelligence of someone who rejects us, as though that renders them incapable of sound judgment. The last time I saw you, we were backstage after a play I was doing. You were so generous, and that made me feel like $1,000,000. It would have been so sad if I'd spent all those years and never reintroduced myself. I would have missed out on all your special wisdom, not to mention the thrill of the view up there on the high road. Thank you for being open to another, more workable draft of me. It affected me profoundly. I still can't juggle. I mean to say that I can't juggle in your way, as certain metaphorical methods I am actually acing on a daily basis. But biscuits or beanbags would be a negative. I confess that during the writing of this piece, I snuck up to my son's room and took the juggling sacks off his shelf. I gave it a shot. I thought you might like to hear that it wasn't as bad as I thought at first, but then very swiftly it was maybe even worse than I thought. It just doesn't seem to be in the cards. You'd be happy to know that I'm actually working on a certain kind of neutrality. I know, shocking, but I see the value in it now. Thank you so much. Okay, Peter, what do we do now?
Have a chat.
What?
Talk to Bob.
What?
Talk to Bob.
Talk to Bob. I just did!
Bob, talk to Mary-Louise.
Okay, so first of all, I think in some ways, some of that kind of sums up what I was trying to say yesterday, and even the reading of it, because I have, been reading aloud from my book quite a bit, and I stay away from pieces that I think might be too touchy, but I've realized that when I read, it's very different from acting, and I'm generally very, very nervous to speak in front of people, not to act, but to speak. And, but I've found that reading I actually quite enjoy because it's not like performing. In any case, I thought coming up here, because I've been reading a lot of them, they haven't really, I've been surprised that for such an emotional person that I've been able to, except for the audiobook reading of my book, I've been able to have some kind of distance from it. But I wasn't able to just that. And so there was something coming up here, just not knowing, that was kind of, felt very risky. The girl, I've been thinking about you so much that I talked to yesterday was having, I hope the director isn't in it, a little bit of problem in rehearsal, whoever you are. Maybe you were a girl, maybe you were a boy. I don't want to out anybody. I've been thinking about you a lot, person, and thinking about being forced to feel something in front of other people and somebody telling you to fake it. There's nothing really worse than telling someone to fake it or someone faking it. And all that it really takes to find something genuine is to just sit there in your body. And I wanted to tell you that today, wherever you are. So just know that when you get to that place where you've been asked to maybe be artificial, when you're ready to not be artificial, just stand there for a second and let yourself just stand there. And it'll be okay. I'm exhausted.
Can you hear me? I knew this day was coming for quite a while, and it has caused in my mind and in my body a great deal of reflection. I've known these people now for 36 years, most of my time here. I came to this place, the North Carolina School of the Arts, as a very young man, and I have glimpses of who I was then and who I still am. I'm reminded of a T.S. Eliot quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it. In my beginning is my end, and in my end is my beginning. I've been thinking so much about that because you set seeds in me way back when that are just now blossoming. And many of you are seeing the fruit of that. In the play I happen to be doing, they mention the golden thread. And the golden thread is that which connects the past to the present to the future. And here is a golden thread. And it is so wonderful to come face to face to myself again. You'll be pleased to know we don't undulate anymore. For some of the reasons you highlighted. And the real reason is my hips went bad. I forgot how to do it. In the founding of this school, and again I will paraphrase, Governor Terry Sanford wrote that this school must be heretical. And now, my interpretation of that is, it is unique and it fosters people who are unique. What attracted me to you, and Peter, to you, all those years ago, is I saw people involved in their passionate preference. That's a Robert Frost quote, which was used in the founding of this school and used to justify why we need this toe-tapping school on the hill. That is a quote from the legislature. You spoke, I heard you speak to our students that they must nurture that element within themselves, which is a bit rebellious, which is who you are. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned, truthfully, over the years is that. It just so happens I work with masks, and my masks, I really love them when they are rebellious. And you didn't know this when I was a young guy, but you were so unique. In not that she couldn't juggle, who cares? But that day that, at least I think I remember the day that you made me laugh so much. We used to do a lot of verbal improvisations. I would never know where Mary-Louise would come from. It was such a breath of fresh air. And that is what is so charismatic about your work. And so charismatic about Peter's work. They work from who they are and the truth that is within them. I'm so glad to be a part of it. That's probably the most words you're going to hear from me in a long time.